Welcome back to the show, everyone. Hey, you want to take a trip with your kid? How about you go to the tallest point in Africa, the famed Kilimanjaro? A great book called Zombies on Kilimanjaro. We are joined by travel writer and author Tim Ward and his son, actor, musician Josh Holober-Ward, to talk about this book, which is not just about Kilimanjaro. It's environmentalism, it's fathers, sons, it's all kinds of great stuff.
Gentlemen, how are you?
All right, guys.
Great.
So
Good.
First and foremost, we have to explain the title of the book because zombies nowadays, people think The Walking Dead. But what kind of zombies are at the top of Kilimanjaro?
Well, they're the walking almost dead. And when you climb up 6 kilometers above sea level, the oxygen is so thin that a lot of people get really bad altitude sickness. And it really feels like your brain is shutting down. And the only thing that's remaining is this must keep moving impulse. And literally, when you're on the volcano's rim and you're climbing towards the little bit that's the highest, that's the summit, it's like you're in some vast Michael Jackson Thriller video with everybody sort of going,
every day I'm shuffling.
Exactly.
Josh, did you experience that at all?
Yes.
Yeah?
Big time, yeah, I had some altitude sickness stuff going up. So going up, I definitely felt like a zombie.
Did you have any idea what to expect when your dad invited you on this trip? And Tim, I'm gonna ask that question of you in a second, but Josh, what did you think when your dad invited you to climb Kilimanjaro? And you're like, yeah, great opportunity, away we go.
Actually, it was pretty similar to that. I've done a lot of wilderness stuff with Dad when I was growing up. So when he said, hey, let's go to Africa and climb a really tall mountain, I was like, well, okay, sure.
Let's give it a shot.
And
Yeah,
Tim, what
let's
was
do
the
it.
impetus for the book and the trip with your son?
A big part of it was just good luck. I got a short-term assignment in Nairobi, Kenya, which is just an hour by plane north of Kilimanjaro, which is in Tanzania. And before leaving, I said to Josh, hey, we're going to be right next door to this great mountain in Africa. Do you want to do it with me? And he said, yeah, sure,
Tell us
why
about
not?
the footage that we're looking at right now.
Yeah. So this is day 3. Josh is shooting this video of us, and we're headed towards Kibo, which is the high peak on Kilimanjaro, and that's the thing that you climb to the top of.
Going up that trail over there.
That is very, that's a long way away. Tim, this book is so much more than just a couple of guys climbing a mountain. This is really, and I was talking to you about it because I have 2 young sons, this is really about relationships, and especially that father-son dynamic that has been treated differently in different histories around the world. But that was never really your intention to get into when you guys first started climbing Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, we really didn't know that this was headed our way. But you know, I hadn't seen that much of Josh for 2 or 3 years before this. He was off at college, and I was sort of looking at it as a great time that we could reconnect and sort of bond. But I was surprised by how, you know, you have 7 days to sort of walk and talk together, how much we were able to get into to really shift us from, at least shift me from a father and a child, Josh was still a kid in my mind, to really seeing Josh as like a man and a friend.
Josh, how did the trip change you, or did it, in your relationship with your dad?
It did a lot. I mean, going from seeing him every once in a while when I visited, and you know, having dinner at a diner and seeing a movie and then saying goodbye, to having 7 days on a mountain.
You're gonna get to know somebody.
Direct conversation.
24/7.
Yes.
As you go along, but it is such an interesting dynamic, and every person, once they reach adulthood, you have to reconcile this person that is your father with this person that is a human being, and that's such a fascinating journey, I think, for everyone to go through. Was that even part of the dialogue, or did it just sort of happen naturally?
Was it part of the dialogue, like?
Well, when you guys, I mean, did you set out with this as a goal? You know, like, hey, Dad, I want to get you to know you better as a person, or is that just something that came of the trip?
Well, I don't know, maybe he did, but no, I was just like, well, let's climb a mountain and talk about memes, okay? So, but it evolved into more than that, as Dad realized that I wanted to know who he was, and I only really knew him as a father and not as another human being. Yeah. So he gave me the story of his life, pretty much, and let me into his world.
And Tim, I mean, it's such a personal story between you and your son. What do you hope other people take away from the book?
Well, I've found from people who've read this, especially parents, that they've recognized this is actually really an important transition point. And when you're in your late teens and early 20s, you're making that transition to an independent person. But a lot of parents, we want to hang on to what it's like to be a sort of a protector, an advisor, a provider, because that's how we've been connected to our kids for all those years. So that part of life is over when your kid
how vulnerable
is a man or a woman.
Is that moment when you make that decision to go, okay, I have to tell my kid now my story, who I am, the mistakes that I've made, the frailties, the fears, all that kind of stuff. That's a real leap for people.
You know, when you grow up with someone who's a young kid, they can't help but look at you as kind of like God. Right? You know, because you are all powerful in their world, and you are all wise, and you have all this control over their lives.
You can ground them.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
That's the summation right there.
You know, and then the teenage years are, I think, for most kids, they're the time of disillusionment and loss of faith. And you know, if you're lucky, you can still stand your parent by the end of your teenage years. But the problem that we as parents face is we still want to be that person. It's great to be that person in many ways. But it's sad to be a God whom nobody believes in. So being able to really surrender Dad, and you know, the zombie thing came back in here. It was sort of like, I was sort of a zombie dad. I had my programming, which was dad programming, but the time for that was really over. And there was a moment on the mountain when I really realized that, and that was when our guide had some altitude sickness medicine that he wanted to give to Josh, because Josh had these bad headaches. And I said, well, what about the side effects? And he handed me the bottle, and I'm reading the side effects, and then the guide is starting to tell me how Josh should take the pills. And I'm like going like this, and I sort of realized, wait a minute. I look up at Josh, and Josh sort of looking at me like this. I just hand him the bottle.
Dad,
and it's like, I realize he is old enough to take his old medicine, and it's not my job anymore.
Well, thank you both so much. If you want to check it out tonight, Tim and Josh will be speaking at 7 o'clock at the Downtown Public Library, and then again tomorrow at Banyen Books at 6:30 on West 4th Avenue. You can go to the book's website to find out more information.
Yeah, and we couldn't do justice to the environmental story that's involved in this as well, but you know what? Great night for Dad and a son to go and check out this beautiful book and listen to these guys speak. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love it. We're going to take a break.